At this point, you have probably seen a picture of Trump's Florida resort once the winter getaway of heiress Marjorie Merriweather Post. Now, Mar-a-Lago is massive. It sits on about 20 acres of land. It has more than 50 bedrooms, and it has all the hallmarks of luxury, all of the fancy stuff. Italian stone and Spanish tiles and lots of marble and gold-plated fixtures and expensive rugs. It also has a golf course and a ballroom, a boutique, and not one but two swimming pools. Here they are. One is by the beach in front, and the other sits right in the middle of basically everything. Now, I point these pools out to you not just because pool envy is a real thing, especially in the summer months, but because these pools, one of these pools, is now at the center of the special counsel's investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents. And it is at the center of that for a very weird reason. CNN was the first to report that, quote, an employee at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence drained the resort's swimming pool last October and ended up flooding a room where computer servers containing surveillance video logs were kept. So, Now, whether the flooding of the IT room where, oh, hey, the surveillance video logs are kept, whether that was intentional or just a really unfortunate mistake, we do not know. But we do know that the Department of Justice investigators are very suspicious of the timing here because the flooding took place right around the same time that prosecutors were issuing subpoenas trying to obtain security camera footage from Mar-a-Lago. So again, Now, the flooding and that subpoena, that was a culmination of a months-long battle on the part of the DOJ to get its hands on this Mar-a-Lago security camera footage. And that subpoena was not the department's first one, not by a long shot. In June of last year, government officials had been fighting with Trump for months to retrieve all the classified documents he had in his possession down at Mar-a-Lago. So the DOJ issued its first subpoena for security camera footage on June 24th. As a result of that first subpoena, DOJ officials got some of that security footage, and it showed two Trump aides, including former valet Walt Nauta and a maintenance worker named Carlos de Oliveira. It showed those two men moving boxes into a storage room on June 2nd. That was one day before FBI agents were invited down to Mar-a-Lago to collect documents, which is, wow, okay, the timing there. But there were gaps in that security camera footage, which, given the circumstances, people moving boxes out of the storage room, that was curious. So the department issued another subpoena for the video footage from outside the storage room, and it issued that subpoena a few weeks later. And while the DOJ was waiting for this, investigators found out that Mr. de Oliveira, the employee who had been helping move the boxes into the Mar-a-Lago storage room, they found out that Mr. de Oliveira called a Mar-a-Lago IT worker asking how the security cameras worked and how long images remained stored in the system. Just asking for a friend, just wondering. Again, Mr. de Oliveira is the same guy who drained the pool in October, causing a flood in the room where computer servers containing surveillance video were kept. He keeps popping up when things go wrong. So after the pool flood, Jack Smith's office issued a third subpoena asking the Trump Organization to preserve all additional footage. Keep it away from any pools, please. And around that same time, in October, Mr. Nauta, the valet, the other guy who was involved in all of this, he reportedly changed lawyers and stopped collaborating with investigators. We do not know how Jack Smith's team learned about the pool incident and what other things they spotted on the camera footage they did get. But for months now, we have known that all the employees from Mar-a-Lago have provided their testimony. And so the special counsel probably has a very full picture of what has been going down at Mar-a-Lago all these months. And now that team, the special counsel's team, is presumably evaluating whether all of these incidents, the moving of the boxes, the refusal to return the documents, the gaps in the security footage, the pool drainage, whether these were random events or an orchestrated effort on the part of Donald Trump and his employees to interfere with this investigation. Now, the latest twist here is the surprise revelation last night that a previously unknown federal grand jury in South Florida has recently started hearing testimony in this case. The New York Times reports the grand jury in Florida is separate from the one that has been sitting for months in Washington. Among those who have appeared before the Washington grand jury in the past few months or have been subpoenaed by it, people familiar with the investigation said, are more than 20 members of Trump's Secret Service detail. As for the Florida grand jury, which began hearing evidence last month, only a handful of witnesses have testified to it or are scheduled to appear before it. But at least one witness has already testified, and another is set to testify tomorrow. Joining us now is former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neal Katyal. He is also an MSNBC legal analyst. Neal, thank you so much for being here to help me understand the theories of this case. I mean, well, I think I have a sense of the theory of the case. But first, your thoughts on these two grand juries and why, what that signals, how you read those indicators.
Yeah, so Jack Smith is presenting now, it looks like, before two grand juries, one in Florida and one in Washington, D.C. I can tell you that the grand jury in Florida and the prosecutors there aren't there to enjoy the weather. They could have impaneled this grand jury for any number of reasons. And it certainly doesn't mean that Trump is going to be charged in Florida or anything like that. What it means is that they do think there's evidence of criminal wrongdoing going on in Florida as well as in Washington, D.C. Now, up until a few weeks ago, Alex, it looked like this case was headed toward Jack Smith indicting in Florida. But Donald Trump himself made D.C. a lot more likely when he appeared on a CNN town hall and said, I made all these classification decisions in Washington, D.C. And that was, I'm sure, music to Jack Smith's ears. So you could have the prosecutions going in both places, one for Trump in D.C. and others like Walt Nuda, the valet in Florida. They could both be brought in one place. It wouldn't shock me if at the end of the day, this becomes a conspiracy set of charges and it all takes place in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I mean, when you outline the actions in and around, the flooding of the IT room by an unsuspecting maintenance worker who also played a role in moving boxes in and out of a storage room, the picture of who else might be implicated in this scheme down in Florida appears to be clearer. Do you think there's you seem to dismiss out of hand the idea that Trump could be criminally indicted in Florida. The New York Times kind of almost made a case for that, given all the action that is convened around Trump and the documents at Mar-a-Lago. But you sound fairly certain that you think if Jack Smith pursues an indictment, it will be in Washington, D.C. Am I reading that correctly?
Well, Alex, it can occur in either place. The Justice Department will be on very strong footing. It seems like Washington, D.C., according to former President Trump's own words, is the locus of decision making. So I think it's going to be there. And then with respect to all this new evidence that you're talking about emerging, like Mark Meadows possibly testifying on this, like the flooded pool and so on, all of that may be helpful evidence, but I think it's important for viewers to understand that's not the criminal case. The criminal case, it's helpful, but it's just helpful. I mean, the criminal case has been strong for months. I mean, Bill Barr, of all people, months ago said that this was the gravest threat to President Trump in terms of criminal jeopardy. And that's because we've known so many things for so many months, that he had more than 100 classified and other national security documents at his country club, that he had them even though his attorneys swore he hadn't had them. We knew how significant these documents were, you know, nuclear secrets and the like. We knew that a federal judge had already said that a crime had been committed here, and it was such a serious crime that had to pierce the attorney-client privilege. We also knew that our nation's second highest court signed off on that ruling, the D.C. Circuit. And, you know, we also knew about these dress rehearsals that you just mentioned a moment ago, these boxes being moved here and there. So there is so much here, Alex, and that's why, you know, it may appear breathless, I know, to our viewers that we're all talking about, you know, this indictment potentially coming this week, and that's because the evidence so far looks overwhelming of Donald Trump's guilt.